Bosses are some of my favorite parts of any Souls-like game, especially when they are well designed, not just in terms of appearance and presentation, but also quality wise. Most of the FromSoft Souls games, especially Dark Souls 3 and Sekiro, manage to make some of the best bosses that complements the combat style of their respective game. So since I've played a couple Souls-likes here and there, I wanted to pick out my personal top 10 favorite bosses from all of them. So yeah, there will be spoilers, so I would advise watching this video with caution. Anyways, let's start off with number 10. At this spot we have Evertino from Blasphemous 2. The Blasphemous series has a lot of great bosses, but the one who stood out to me the most was this guy. First of all, he's definitely one of the hardest bosses on the list for sure. This man kicked my ass so many times it's crazy. Now, why did I put him here? First of all, his arena looks dope. It's like this old cathedral with Chrysanta's corpse in the middle. And clashing with this guy looks and feels cinematic. His first phase is pretty simple and easy, however it's his second phase where he cranks everything up to 11. All of a sudden bro went from a sorcerer to a wannabe anime swordsman. I mean, bro was dishing out sword slashes left and right, flipping and dashing all over the arena, and some of his attacks felt like it covered half of it. Now that aside, in terms of difficulty, this man was super hard. He was whooping my ass so bad to the point where I had to cheese him with the mace and the time stop ability, which I'm pretty sure the devs nerfed by now, because let's be honest, on release that spell was OP as hell. So yeah, overall this guy truly felt like a final boss despite there being another one after him. He's challenging, has a flashy moveset, and has a lot of story relevance, so that's why I placed him here. Coming in at 9th place we have Dagon Gera, specifically the third fight from Jedi Survivor. Out of all the bosses from both Jedi games, I think Dagon stood out to me the most, mostly because of the cinematic feeling and the story relevance he had. Sure, a lot of the other bosses had those, but I was more interested in his mostly due to his backstory and everything, and the fact that we fought him so many times throughout the game. Now fight wise, in terms of difficulty, he's definitely up there for sure. His first phase isn't so hard, but his final phase where he summons clones and creates a force arm is really hectic, but not overbearing in any way. Overall, he's a fun fight and definitely one of my favorite Souls-like bosses for sure. Up next we have the Judge Cleric from Lords of the Fallen. I was thinking of putting either Pieta or Dervila here, but I chose the Judge instead of those two. While Pieta is a fun fight, her moveset is really lacking, but she gets a pass and sees, literally the first actual boss of the game. Now Dervila on the other hand, her moveset is actually pretty cool, especially in the first phase, but for some reason the devs made her have the lamest second phase ever. I thought she would turn into some badass looking cooler version of herself or something, but with an even cooler moveset. But instead they made her turn into this crab walking monstrosity with a lame ass moveset. Anyways, the Judge on the other hand had two things the previous bosses I mentioned lacked: a cool second phase and a vast moveset. Her first phase is actually really fun because of the amount of holy attacks she throws at you. I also love the design of both her and the arena in this phase. Her second phase is cool too, since most of her abilities goes from radiance based to infernal, which basically means she has fire based attacks and abilities. Despite this, the second phase doesn't feel completely different from the first one. She does have more AoE attacks though. Now the only thing I really didn't like about her fight is her awful second phase cutscene, but other than that, she's a pretty cool boss and my personal favorite encounter in Lords of the Fallen. At this spot we have Bo Sorcerer from Wuchang Fallen Feathers. She was the fight that I was anticipating the most. Bo Sorcerer's fight is fantastic. Her moveset is fun, but what I really like the most is the visuals. The arena looks gorgeous, this large open pool of water in the middle of the forest, the design of the sorcerer herself, and how beautiful some of her attacks look. While there are definitely more crazier fights in terms of spectacle, I do like the simple yet beautiful style they were going for with this one. Now visuals aside, going into this fight, I knew it would be a challenge, and the challenge it was because she ragdolled me for a good minute. But hey, at least it was really fun this time. At first she may seem fast and overwhelming, but as time goes by, you get used to the timing of her attacks and see the few openings she has. What I realized is that despite the second phase starting off with her water spouts and her occasional sword slash projectiles, it's not really that much different from the first. Over time it became fun dodging and countering most of her attacks. The only complaint I have is that I wish she had just a little bit more downtime between her combos, but that's about it. Overall, she's a fantastic boss fight and probably the only boss I would go out my way to refight in this game. I swear, I feel like every time a game has Lu Bu in it, he's gonna be a problem. Lu Bu is the best boss in Wolong Fallen Dynasty, in my opinion, because while the other bosses in the game were kind of pushovers, this guy was the only one that gave me a super hard time. Plus his design and presentation makes him stand out a bit more. Also, speaking of him being hard, I'm thankful for that because it made me appreciate his boss fight even more. Now fight wise, Lubu doesn't really have a true second phase because it feels more like a cycle, and by that I mean once you knock him off his horse, he doesn't just stop using it for the rest of the fight. Instead, you fight him for a little bit until he's ready to call it again. So the main objective of the fight is to knock him off his horse and do as much damage as possible till he calls it again, and then rinse and repeat. And that's basically the whole fight. It sounds way less fun the way I described it, but trust me, Lubu was a really amazing and engaging fight, and that's why I had to put him on the list. Up next we have Luxasia from Lies of P. Luxasia is by far one of the best bosses in the game. And no, it's not because she has a fat ass or anything, it's just that her presentation and quality of the fight itself is really good. Now to be fair, at first she was a bit more unbalanced, especially on release. This bitch was just zooming around the arena while barely giving you any time to attack her, and her attacks themselves did a crazy amount of damage. But now she doesn't seem to move around like before, and her damage output, while a lot, doesn't feel overbearing like how it did on launch. So I don't know if they nerfed her or anything. But her boss fight right now is super fun. In the first phase she has a large greatsword and a lot of armor on. Her attacks in this phase is pretty easily telegraphed once you get the hang of things. The only ones that can be a bit tricky is the shock after effect and when she starts doing a long sequence of attacks. Also, sometimes her attack animation can be a bit too fast, but again, this phase isn't really that hard. The second phase, however, she decides to remove her armor, revealing that she's not a dude but a baddie indeed. And man, the first time seeing this phase transition cutscene, I got goosebumps. I felt like I was fighting Thor mixed in with Wonder Woman. Here her attacks are super fast and she does this weird lag with some of them that can catch you off guard. I used to hate this phase mostly because at the time it felt like I wasn't doing that much damage to her. But now it feels really manageable, and after learning how to deal with the attacks in this phase, she became super fun. All in all, she's a really fun boss fight and visually one of the best in the game. At 4th place we have the Nameless Puppet. This is my favorite boss in the game. There's literally no bullshit. Yeah, he's hard, but he doesn't feel unbalanced. His moveset can be a bit tricky, but nothing too crazy and out of the ordinary. The presentation is also great, even the lore too, as it turns out this puppet is Carlo's body, Geppetto's son, and he's basically trying to kill you so that he can take your heart, which contains your ergo, so he can put it back in Carlo's body to bring him back to life, I guess. I don't know. But unfortunately for him, we don't do free shit around here. Everything about the boss fight is great, including the fight itself. Phase 1 starts off pretty simple, it's just basic attacks, nothing too crazy, but phase 2 is when he decides to do all this crazy shit. His attacks become more aggressive and he moves around more often. Not only that, but he does way more damage. But again, it's nothing too crazy, cause after a while you start reacting to his attacks accordingly, and you'll beat him eventually. Now that's all I have to say about the Nameless Puppet. It's a great fun fight that I like even more than the DLC bosses. When the cutscene played and I saw this dude, 1, I knew my ass was grass, and 2, I love the design. The shiny armor, the scarlet red aesthetic, the chains hanging down, and the big ass coffin on his back. It made me interested in his backstory. Now the fight itself is also really great. At first his attack seems chaotic and unpredictable, which makes sense since he's plague ridden. He has a ton of health but nothing too crazy, and in his second phase he starts to incorporate the coffin into his moveset a bit more, with various back-to-back jump attacks and the move where he stabs the coffin multiple times. Now despite his attack pattern being a bit unpredictable at first, out of all the bosses in the game, surprisingly he has my favorite moveset. I don't know, it's just fun as hell to deflect his attacks, except in the second phase where he goes apeshit mode in the first part. Now speaking of second phase, he has a whole nother health bar, but luckily his health constantly drains so you don't have to worry about fighting him for too long. But yeah, Scapula is definitely one of my favorite Souls-like bosses of all time, but there's still another boss in the game that I prefer over him. At this spot we have yet another boss from First Berserker Kazan, Ozma. At first I kinda hated the fact that he was a mage boss, but his moveset doesn't feel too spammy, and there are plenty of times where he closes the distance with you. His design is awesome and his moveset is engaging, but he also has a lot of visual flair to it. In the second phase his moveset changes up a bit, but it shouldn't be nothing that you can't handle after a while. And in the third phase, yes, third phase, he's slightly easier but still not a pushover. As you can see, this man is hard, but he's also really fun. If I were to complain about something, it's definitely the amount of health he has and the fact that he has an unlimited amount of moves in his kit. I swear I was refighting him and he was pulling out moves that I didn't even know he had in the first place. But again, that aside, still my personal favorite boss in the game, and side note, that second phase cutscene was incredible. And at first place for my absolute favorite Souls-like boss, we have the Great Sage Broken Shell from Black Myth Wukong. Just like the player, the Broken Shell has a lot of tricks up his sleeves. This man felt almost impossible for me due to how hard it was to keep up with his attacks. It took me around 3 hours in order to beat him. Not only that, but he has 2 whole health bars. His first phase is what I would consider hard but medium, as at that time you have full use of Jingle Bang's moveset and skills, but in the second phase the Broken Shell removes some type of essence from you, so now you have to use your basic staff skills and less OP moveset. But man, his attack requires pin perfect dodge timing. Like, you literally can't take your eyes off of him for even a second. He's hard with a lot of attacks, but man, I almost felt like giving up while fighting him at first. Oh yeah, I forgot, he can steal your potions, meaning if you heal and he does a weird gesture, he freezes you in time and takes away one of your heals. Not only that, but you can't use your regular attacks against him unless it's in mid combo. He will grab it and flip you around like a child and throw you across the arena. His grab attack is also hard to see coming, as during a combo he will sometimes just instantly go rock solid on you, which will get you stuck in a sequence of attacks where he kicks you around. Now, despite all of this, the fight never really felt unfair. Sure, it could be a little frustrating at times, but it was still fair for the most part. The main reason why I rank it so high is because of how much of a trickster he is. It's almost like he adapts to each of your attacks. But just fighting him feels so fun, and it's almost like a duel between, tricksters. And while playing the game, I always wondered what fighting Wukong himself would feel like, or be like, and this is basically the answer I got. So overall, the Broken Shells is my favorite Souls-like boss, at least as of right now. So that was it for my top 10 favorite Souls-like bosses. Let me know down below what your favorite bosses are. Anyways, I hope you guys like this video, and if you want more content like this, then be sure to subscribe as well. Anyways, I hope you all have a good one.